Hi, this is Trina Kavanagh-Thomas. Welcome to the Self-Love Greenlight. I'm here today with Fiona Clark. Now, me and Fiona have known each other for quite some time, and obviously Fiona may be new to my audience and to anyone who's listening to this, or you already know Fiona and you know her because you may have heard of the Zenergizer. I just think that's just an incredible name. But Fiona is a lover of all things energy. Like when we get together, this could be a very hefty conversation. We could be here for a long time, but we're going to try and stick within like the 30 minutes. But I am always fascinated to listen to Fiona's story, how she does her work. I mean, like 30 years training in kinesiology, reflexology, Theta Healing, EFT. I mean, like that is just like part of, just part of what Fiona like intermingles into the work. And you can tell when you see like her posts, like the energy or the Zenergy. Yeah, because you obviously use your skills to the maximum potential. And just all these different incredible things. And a girl after my own heart loves quantum physics as well. And we're going to be talking about, and you mentioned on here, the Healy as well. So bioresonance tool.
Oh my God, Trina, that's a long conversation. Which actually could be a short conversation, or it can be a very long conversation.
You're going to have to come on here again because because honestly, like even just thinking of all these things that you do, I like think, oh my God, like this is, I really want to learn about it.
We do it in jokes.
Yeah, no, it's almost like sometimes when I'm chatting to you, Fiona, it's like a lesson for me. Do you know? I like sitting. I'm like, oh my God, this is brilliant. It's like you come in and like it's almost like it's a beautiful teaching, and while we both we look at the power of energy healing and how we can heal ourselves. We both have our different ways of doing it, and I'm still learning, and it's just so beautiful to listen to what you do.
I'm still learning too.
I think we all are, aren't we? We all are, but
it's not a done journey by any means.
It isn't. Not at all. No. Not at all. You know what I'm going to start on is that how the power of healing yourself, because this is why I kind of got you on in the first place, because you were speaking about healing yourself on one of your posts, and hopefully you remember which post it was. Yeah, but just for the audience's purposes, because we all know we've got the medical side of stuff, and and even I'm interested in deep diving into the medical and the cellular and cells and how cell division and all that kind of stuff. But there is this thing that it still seems to be missing in the world. Bits of it are like kind of creeping out, and you can find it if you look for it. But there's this big piece that is missing.
I agree. So, well, first of all, it's so lovely to see you, because we have not caught up for ages, and we used to catch up quite a bit, and then it's sort of like, things happen, don't they? And anyway, we all go different directions, but it's great to be back in contact. So really, I think it's useful to understand, because people say to me, well, how did you start in this world?
Yeah.
And I literally started because I had a car accident. So it's normally we have some reason. We have a challenge which throws us a gift. Now, I would never have said that car accident would have given me a gift, but it really did. And I was literally the fifth car out of 6 on the M25. And I could see, so I smashed into the car in front of me. And then I could see this BMW coming at full speed and smashing into me. And that's what created this huge problem in my neck. So I had 2 whiplash injuries and that. And then 3 months down the line, that wasn't bad enough. I had another one because stationary at traffic lights and someone else went into the back of me. So seriously big messages going on from the universe, which I had no idea about at that time. And so basically I had this horrendous problem with my neck. I mean, I couldn't lift this arm because I had so much pain constantly going down here. Couldn't lift anything, couldn't carry anything, couldn't do ironing or all these things. And I went through the usual channels because I wanted to get the car insurance.
Yeah.
These doctors who told me I would have problems the rest of my life. I was in my 20s, you know, that I just had to put, and all they did was, well, look this way, look that way. Oh, we'll give you manipulation under anesthetic. I saw Harley Street doctors. I saw, and nothing. It was just, well, you just have to put up with it.
Wow.
So I was like, okay, whatever. And I used to work, I don't know if you know, for British Airways in those days. And so a friend of mine at one point, she's sitting on this trip. She said, I've started doing this thing. Can I practice on you? And I thought, you can do anything. I really anything here. And basically she did touch for health, which is like a precursor to kinesiology. I don't even know if anyone teaches it now. There must be somewhere in the world. And cut a long story short, I went to her kinesiologist. She fixed my neck in literally a couple of sessions. And I was still having to go back to these doctors for probably another 2 years because it took 4 years to get the car insurance. And they were still in the same scenario. You're going to have problems the rest of your life. And that's what really, I just lost trust. I just lost utter trust in the system, which actually did absolutely nothing. It's like, take painkillers, put up with it, end of. And so when this kinesiology just did all this weird stuff with muscle testing and seeing what my body needed to heal, I was like, oh my God, I need to know more. And that's when I decided to train as a kinesiologist, this was in 1991. So it took me a while to get to that stage. And I trained as a kinesiologist, I trained to instructor level because I was blown away in the world of muscle testing, chakras, meridians, looking at the cause, not treating a symptom, using finger modes as your like computer to find out what the body needs to heal. And of course, 30 years ago, you didn't even see yoga around. No one was really talking about energy unless you were sort of wearing flowing dresses, you know, the usual sort of woo-woo sort of image that people had, this long flowing lock. Well, I didn't look like that. You know, I was there in my BA uniform and, you know, completely different to the image a lot of people expected. So I didn't talk about it very much unless I was in an environment where I knew it was safe to do that. Yeah. But it really took me into a world where I was like, there is so much more we do not understand about who we are and how we can get. So and when I'm on a path, that's it. I'm like tunnel vision. So I went and I trained as a reflexologist. I didn't really want to do that, but that was another friend of mine whose father was dying. And this is the only reason I did that. Her father was dying of cancer. She wanted to do reflexology. She wanted me to go with her. And I was like, I don't want to touch people's feet. What do I want to do that for? Anyway, obsession. Obsessed with people's feet because I was like, I know exactly what's going on. I absolutely adored it. Did every class under the sun. And I used that for a long, long time with kids, with babies, with everybody. It was phenomenal. And then, of course, you know, I moved to Asia. I did a lot of stuff there. I did my EFT training over there. I did my Theta Healing, my coaching. I did crystal healing. I did acupressure. And everything was just adding in. So all I wanted to do, I was just curious. And my focus right from the beginning was I wanted to show people how they could heal themselves. Simple. I mean, you're talking, you know, not difficult things. We do not heal because we're not looking as the body as a whole, mentally, physically, spiritually. And our medical system have got a great place to play, but they work on the physical, generally speaking. They do not work on what goes on up here. They do not work on so many other levels that we work on. So that's why I have just ended up, you know, and I came up with the Zenergizer because I wanted people to be in this energized, high vibrational energy state with that zen. It's not like being the Duracell battery where you're like this and then you just fall apart. Okay, my energy's gone now. It's having this high vibration state of being. So that's where the Zenergizer comes from. So that's a sort of short story of how I started. And once I started, I just couldn't stop finding out more.
I think that's the thing, isn't it? Because you kind of, I don't know about you, but you get kind of, from what I'm listening, you kind of get pulled on this path that you don't know why you are going down this path, but you do. You kind of like get almost like, it's almost like follow the breadcrumbs type thing. But you get pulled down this beautiful path of exploration, so to speak. And one thing I think that kind of comes up, and I think this is something that we do need to look into, is, and it interests me very much. We look at the 1% or 2%, depending on how it is calculating out now, of the rich people in the world. How do the 1 to 2% make a load of money? But it's very different in science. Science is you need a lot of people and bigger percentages to make something more factual. When we then ignore or dismiss, so to speak, the 1 to 2% that can actually heal themselves, rather than like really knowing, hey, how comes this person over here is really ill? And this person over here actually became ill with the same thing, but actually was able to manage to go off and go do, X, Y, and Z. Again, I completely agree with you. There is almost like, there are some doctors who do a lot. Yeah.
A lot
but
more.
They're having to do this under the radar, because it's almost like if they show any of it, then their credibility goes, which is really, really sad, because a lot of, like kinesiology in particular, a lot of the healing practices that are now, there are scientific evidence and academic evidence to back a lot of these things up. So it's very odd that none of them are kind of like seen as credible, so to speak.
Do you know what I think? What a lot of it is? Okay, a lot of this is cultural.
Mm-hmm.
Because the one thing in our country, in the UK, and I have no issue saying this, is that the NHS has done so many of us a disservice, because we are brought up from a very young age and we are given the narrative, if you're sick, you go to the doctor. End of. Someone else is there to take responsibility for you. If it's a cold, doesn't matter what else. It's the basic stuff. Whereas when, I mean, having lived in Asia, and I've traveled the world, and I've been so lucky to be able to do that. I have seen how things are different. I mean, I worked in Hong Kong. I actually worked in one of the doctor's practices for a while. 1 day a week, 1.5 days a week, and doing kinesiology and reflexology there. But she had an acupuncturist there. She had other, what you might call complementary alternative, whatever you think.
Yeah.
But it's the wholesome idea of bringing all of this together, because you pay for everything. But you can't. There's reflexology shops as coffee are as common as coffee shops, because it's not a luxury. It's a necessity. It's a part of your life. You have your reflexology every day, not every day, probably every couple of days, once a week, whenever. It is a necessity. It's like going and having your lunch, because it's prevention. It's not wait till you get sick and expect someone else to fix you. In China, the doctors, if their patients get sick, they feel they have failed, because it's all about, how do we prevent illness? How do we prevent stress? How do we prevent getting out of this wholesome state that we should and we are in, which we don't have? And of course, pharma are very powerful, and they want customers. So they want sick people. It's the bottom line of it. They want sick people. So what I'm loving in the 30 years that I've been in this environment is that I'm seeing so much more coming together, waking up, and understanding that actually it's not just okay to pop a pill anymore. You can do other things. I mean, I never get sick. I don't worry about anyone else who's around me who's sick. I really don't. Because number one, I've got Healy. And number two, if I feel like I've got a bit of a sniffle, I'll just tap. And I will just, because I know that means my energy is flowing properly. So what do we need to do? We can do simple techniques that release the flow of energy within our body, so that we are coming into a more natural, harmonious state. That's the difference.
I love that, because what you mentioned there was the simple things. You can, most of us will know when we've got something appearing, but sometimes if we're waylaid or there's a lot of stress or something like that, sometimes we miss like the little tickly in the, you know, the niggle in the throat, or we may just miss like just slight blockage of a nose, or, you know, we miss like the little niggly symptom, you know, the stuff that it's almost like, I think we get taught it, don't we? When, because I used to have cold sores, but I don't have them anymore. But when one would come up, or just about to come up, you would feel like that little bit of a tickle on the lip or something. But it is like that. It's almost like what you're describing to the audience is almost like pinpointing something and then actually getting it before it blows up into something that it didn't even need to turn into. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because all of us have a weaker area. So, for example, if I get stressed, it will come out of my skin. Other people, it'll be cold sores. Other people, it's digestive or headaches. I never get headaches. Yeah. It just doesn't happen. So those are the signs. Those are the big alarm bells, because actually what's happening is you're not listening to this. This is the problem. I call it the committee. Sure. And it's the committee that's having a rant. It's on a conference and it's actually really going, and it's like, and when the committee's in that state, you've got nothing else going on. But actually, when we ignore all these messages from the universe to say something's not right, it will come into the physical body, because the physical body, you will listen to it. If you're in pain or you're sick, you will listen and do something. But generally speaking, people will just ignore this, and they'll keep going and they'll keep going and they'll keep going until they fall down. And that's what happens. So whenever I work with clients, they all know, it's like, well, what are your non-negotiables? Every single day, what are your non-negotiables? And that's what I call them. I won't start work until I've done my yoga or my walking or my meditation. I might do some tapping. I might do some chanting, but I have my non-negotiables, and that is exactly what they are, because that is what creates this balance so that you are in prevention. I've had a lot of stress that goes on, and people say to me, well, why are you so calm? I'm like, because I practice what I preach, so that when stress does come up, and we live in a world where we need a certain amount of stress anyway, but it's when it goes too much that kills us off, literally. But it's like being aware of where you are and tracing your meridians, for example. Once you know your 14 meridians, it can take you 5 minutes to actually run those meridians, each meridian, say 3 times. Those are your energy pathways. If you keep those clear, it's the same as tapping them. Your body's in a different place, so that when stress does hit you, it sort of goes up around above you, or it'll go around you, because you're not responding. Nothing wrong with stress. But what's the problem is our responses and our reactions to what is going on within our environment and within our relationships. And it all comes back down to how we feel within ourselves.
Yeah, in terms of what you were saying, I know health can be a very emotive subject for anyone who's listening. Just like money, money can be a very emotive subject, but it seems like health is an even bigger emotive subject. And I'm sure we're probably on the same wavelength of thinking this as well, that a lot of that can be triggers stopping us from actually looking after our health. Absolutely. And obtaining the health that we were meant to have, that we deserve to have.
That we do have also, Trina. And this is so important, because we are all wholesome beings. But you see, I've been lucky enough to have lived in Asia, lived and traveled around the world. And every culture has a different sort of idea. In Hong Kong, I don't know how much it's still going on now, because I don't know that the younger generations are doing this, but you'll see in the mornings the older people doing the Tai Chi on top of the roof.
Oh my God, yes. Oh my God, yes.
I did Tai Chi when I was over there. It's flipping hard, actually, because I did actually hardest one, which had 80 movements in it, and it took me and that only takes 20 minutes when you know it, but oh my god, it's hard. But then you also got the parks. I mean, I love this. There's Victoria Park in Hong Kong where they've got these pathways where they've got rocks or stones, and some of them are very gentle and they go up, so they're like this, so that you go there, you walk on these, you're stimulating all the reflexology points on your feet for free.
That's incredible, because I went to Hong Kong and I went to Victoria Park, but I didn't see that. And not only that, I think at the time when I actually went to Hong Kong, I was I wasn't very open, but I do remember going to Kowloon, which is, for the audience's purposes, which is the city that is not on the island. So you've got on Hong Kong Island, but you've got the mainland. I remember early, like in the daytime, and there'd be people, like just doing Tai Chi, slow moving. And it was just beautiful to watch. My daughter was like bombing about the park, but just beautiful to watch. And I've always said, we can really take a leaf out of the book of those that are live in Hong Kong those ways, in terms of their longevity in life.
It's more than just the longevity, it's the quality.
Mm-hmm.
You come back into the UK and everyone, number one, they don't want to pay for health. They'll pay to have their nails done or the bottle of wine every night, but they won't go and have a reflexology session, because that's like, well, I don't pay for that. I can go to the NHS. The amount of people I've heard will say, who have been really stressed out, and they've said, well, I'll go to the doctors. Oh my God, I've got to wait 2 months to get free counselling. Well, why would you wait 2 months? Why not do something now? We've got a different mentality in this country because we're not used to paying for our health. And that has to change. And I think it is going to start changing.
I do personally believe it is going to start changing. There's an efficacy, though, as well, isn't there?
Yeah.
I don't know whether you've seen this, but I know that it's happened in my family, where people are taking maybe 20 or more tablets a day. That can be quite, which, obviously you take a tablet and then you get symptoms. So you take another tablet because of the symptoms of that tablet. So you take another tablet because you've got more symptoms from this tablet. And then you end up on a plethora of tablets. And this, I know that this is part of what's happened in my personal life and that I've seen as I've grown up, but knew that I didn't want to take that path, because I could see how that would hurt the body, because we have so much trust and faith in someone who is human as well, and also is, what's the word I'm looking for? Is it infallible or fallible? It's one of them words anyway, but not realizing that there is a personal responsibility in medicine as well, to look at notes and to notice if someone's taking more tablets or overtaking tablets than what they should do,
or even if they're coherent together. They're not everything, and there's the toxins that creates. And you see, I've always been dead against, I don't take anything. I didn't bring my children up on I never even bought Calpol. I didn't have anything. I was so like, and they had flower remedies, they had reflexology, they had homeopathy, and I tell you what, they never had antibiotics. Never.
I think because this is like really eye-opening to me, having this conversation with you, because I grew up in a family where everyone did, take medication for like different things, different ailments. And so I think for me, it was like, okay, I'm going to take medication during this time, but not during this time. I'm going to do that during that time, but not during this time. But then over the years, I then weaned my body off medication. because I used to take paracetamol for everything. Now I'm just like laying there going, oh my God. But depending on what it is, some things, you know, we catch straight away, and other things, you know, come in. I also think that sometimes if we do catch something, it will boost the immune system as well for anything that is to come. But it's just really interesting listening to what you're saying in terms of, you know, like what we take and what our children take. And it, as I said, I'm still learning. So it's so beautiful having this conversation about, you know, natural products and stuff and natural remedies. And I'm totally with you. Do you know, when you think of like natural remedies, do you, and obviously this is going to come into what you do and how you can heal yourself. Do you feel into what you need when something comes up? Or does it come like second nature now to you?
It comes second nature, but to be perfectly honest, I don't really have things that come up. But
Yes.
okay, let's look at it in a different way. I work with Healy this now, and I'll you know, if we've got time, I can tell you a little bit about this, because actually all this is, it's not new technology. This technology was developed 100 years ago. We are just energy beings. So look at it very simply. We are just energy beings. Everything about us is energy. Yeah. There's only a very small percentage that's actually matter. This is not woo-woo stuff. This is science.
This is science, yeah.
Physics, not woo-woo. This is the reality of what's going on within us. And if you look at how the old ancient Chinese wisdom, which I mean, you know, as a kinesiologist going into all the meridians, I'm living in Hong Kong. I was like, oh my God, I'm in heaven. Absolutely. Learning more about the Chinese ways and, you know, the meridians and the 5 elements, because this has been around for thousands and thousands of years. Don't tell me it doesn't work, because it does. Because at the end of the day, we are just a system. So understanding what the system is telling you is so important, because what most people think, I mean, I've had people saying to me, actually, I remember working with a guy years ago, he said, I don't need my left side. I could just chop my left side off. I was like, I thought this is the weirdest thing. It was the weirdest thing I've ever heard. I was like, oh, okay.
I could just chop it off.
It was just bizarre. But this is how so much people are disconnected from who they are on all levels. But when you tune in and you can actually start to hear the message from inside, and you can have an understanding of what that message is actually telling you, it's listening to the language, you then know how to respond in a different way. The problem is, most people have been brought up with the easy option of pop a pill, but that's only treating the symptom. So what happens? Why do people keep getting backache? Why do people constantly get stomachache? Why do people constantly say, I've got another headache? Because you're just treating the top. You're not getting underneath it and saying, well, you know, I've got a curious mind. I want to know what's going on. Why have you got that? Why have you got it again? And you got it again? Something you're doing is, you know, clearly not what you should be doing, because, as they say, you know, you keep getting the same old thing. You need to change what you're doing to create something different, to get a different result. And so for me, I don't really get sick. Obviously, I do get stressed, but I will do my tapping, or I will do by doing, and it's not just the tapping, but I know, you know, there's so many energy exercises, because when you're stressed, put it this way, stressed, sick, or in pain, your body, your energy is congested somewhere in your body. Simple. So what you need to do is get those meridians or the chakras or any of the energy system flowing. Think of it like a river. Really simple. When you see stagnant water, it's because that water's got stuck behind a big rock or a boulder. It can't. Same as our energy. Take that out, you've got a flowing stream, and it's beautiful. It smells nice. You want to jump in.
That is, you know, I think that is just an incredible way of just explaining it, because for obviously the purpose of, you know, the viewers, the listeners and viewers, what Fiona is saying is that if you think of, because it all comes down to circulation, doesn't it, as well, how the energy circulates through you. And without energy, we wouldn't be here. That's
well, you'll be dead.
We wouldn't even, yeah, we'd be dead. You know,
you're dead.
Yeah. So yeah, this is why we need to have these conversations about energy, because, you know, I think we do need to, I know, need to dive in more to, you know, to Chinese, to the wisdom of the East in particular, Chinese wisdom. And then obviously other, there's so many, like, just different ways.
I have to say, and this is coming through because I really want, and actually I didn't give you my YouTube, I don't think I gave you my YouTube link, but what I want people to really understand, because this sounds as if it could be, and people could be like, oh my God, that sounds so complicated, how on earth would I know what to do? It is not. Let's keep this right simple now. It is not complicated. It does not have to take a long time. In 5 minutes, every couple of hours, once a day, there's certain things you can do. One thing, just breathe properly, for one thing. That's an easy way. Drink water. Most people don't drink water or enough water. You know, there are very, very simple, quick, effective things that we can all do to boost our energy system. It is not complicated. And this is what I want people to understand. And I've got a lot of stuff on my YouTube channel. I've got all the videos I did a few years ago, actually, on the meridians, you know, what they represent, what the emotions that are connected. So, for example, if you have a lot of bladder problems, we know that is kidney, that is bladder, water element. It's all to do with fears and anxieties and being insecure. So really start to listen to the messages. If you're very angry, that's going to affect the liver. So when you understand the emotions that are connected to each of the organs and the different meridians, you start to understand the story of what's really going on. And this is what is just, for me, completely fascinating. And you can understand the patterns.
There is a pattern as well, isn't there? I think that's what it comes down to. I mean, we could talk about this all day. And what I'll do is, because I'm going to post Fiona's link to her YouTube channel. I'm going to come and follow your YouTube channel as well, because, you know, I always learn so much anyway. So it's just, every conversation that we have is always fascinating. And as we end our conversation, I just want to, I always do a card reading at the end, or show a card. And now, obviously, for people who are listening, I'll try and describe the card and I'll let you know what card it is. For people who are watching, obviously, you'll see the card. But it's from the Light Seers Tarot by Chris Ann. And it is such a beautiful deck. It's just so artistic. Have you not? Oh my gosh.
I've got so many decks, but I don't have that one. I've not even heard that one. The Light Seekers. Okay.
And the artwork is just incredible. Yeah. And it's just got a real nice, it's got beautiful energy to it, I think.
What we need. But you see, the thing, Trina, and let me just finish with this, is that people know when there's a good energy and there's an energy that's not. We all know, because we are all intuitive. We know when we walk in a room whether it feels good or feels a bit heavy. You know, we know, but we don't always tune in. So the more we can actually get back to those original roots, and the more we teach our children from the youngest of ages how they can deal with stresses. I love working with kids because they are our future. We need our children to understand that actually just by tapping under here, they can get rid of any stress, any fears, any anxieties, and we do it naturally. We do this naturally. It's kidney meridian. It's very easy. And just breathe. And you're sending those messages to the body to just calm down and come back into the place of calm, parasympathetic nervous system. It's simple. This is what I'm saying to you. It does not have to be complicated.
It's simple and it's scientific as well at the same time. Yeah. And so this is why, it does need to get out a lot more. And it's really funny because I drew a card, and the card that's come up is Temperance. Oh. And you know what kind of comes up, because it keeps coming back to, you know, the Chinese medicine side of things, the yin and the yang, you know, the balance of energies, which you just mentioned right at the end as well. That kind of like, you know, you see on this card. So for anyone who's not watching, on this card in particular, Temperance, you've got someone who is almost like masculine and feminine at the same time, and she's the energies are holding light, so as the sun and the moon, the darkness of the moon at the same time. And then there's these beautiful angel wings behind, almost like when you master your energies, that you get this kind of, and then you mentioned it at the beginning, that high vibe.
Yeah.
You're able to move through with the energies and use the energies in the right way. Knowing, like, with what we were saying, like when things start to appear, that we can actually work with them. We then know what to do, whether we need to rest, whether it's the body faint, because obviously, as you know, Fiona, the body can feign tiredness as well. And we know then, okay, well, we need a bit more, we need something to like kind of push us along. We need to kind of get that energy up. I think you do that incredibly well with moving meditations.
Meditations.
Yeah. So it kind of symbols like for the balance of energies, for that kind of assertiveness, and also for that kind of gentleness as well, that kind of comes in. And for anyone who's watching or just listening, and what does the Temperance card mean for you? Because I know it can mean different things for different people.
And it's a beautiful card to end with, because that is about divine balance. And the golden there is like bringing the wisdom and the magic and actually standing in your power. Nobody else does, but stand in your power. Be the master you're meant to be.
That is beautiful. You know what? Just to even end with that. So I'll put all Fiona's links in the description, and you can reach out to her. Honestly, reach out. Reach out, join a group, soak in all her information, because it's incredible. It's very simple. It's not difficult or anything. Yeah. Is, and you know what, it's just been a brilliant conversation to have with you today.
Right at the beginning, we could chat forever.
I know. Right, I'm going to end the conversation, but yeah, thank you so much everyone for tuning in, and we'll definitely have Fiona back again soon. Thanks for listening.